Hi, this is Gabriel Weiner from FluentForever.com. In these 3 videos, I'm going to show you the bare essentials of English phonetics and spelling. If you're using one of my pronunciation trainers, don't worry about memorizing any of this. The trainer will do that for you. Just watch and pay attention. Everything you see here will show up sooner or later within the trainer. I'll be going through English using the International Phonetic Alphabet, or IPA. This lets us simplify our discussion a lot, since I only need to talk about 38 or so symbols, many of which you may know already, instead of trying to wade through nearly 170 spelling rules. So, let's get started. We'll break this up into 3 parts. The first will cover the English consonants, the second will cover the vowels, and the third will cover a few of English's spelling rules. We'll be discussing the general American dialect of English throughout this video. That said, if you're interested in learning British English, specifically received pronunciation or BBC English, then I'd suggest you watch these videos first, and then watch a 4th video I'm making on the differences between general American and received pronunciation. American English has 25 consonants. Now, usually when I make these videos, I compare the language you're learning to the sounds of English. But that's not really going to work here. Instead, I'm going to assume that you know a small set of sounds that tend to show up in most languages, and then we're going to use those sounds to explain the rest of the consonants you need. So let me start by introducing you to a few sounds that you probably already know, and then briefly mention where they're made in your mouth. We'll start in the front of your mouth and work backwards. So first we have B as in boy, and M as in man. These 2 sounds are made in the same place, by touching your lower lip to your upper lip. B, M. Now further back, then comes F, as in father. This one is made by touching your lower lip, this time to your upper teeth. F, father. Next, we have D, as in dog, S, as in snake, and N, as in nail. These 3 sounds are made by touching the tip of your tongue to your alveolar ridge. That's that hard ridge right behind your upper teeth. D, S, N. And here, I'll make one comment about that D sound for English. In many languages, you make a D sound with the tip of your tongue touching your upper teeth. And then the blade of your tongue, the part that comes right behind the tip, that will be the part that touches your alveolar ridge, making a sound like D, D. In English, you'll pull your tongue a little further back so that the tip of your tongue is at your alveolar ridge. This gives that consonant a more percussive sound. You get D, 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 instead of D, 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 like you might find in Italian or Spanish. Now moving on, we have Y as in yellow. This one is basically the same tongue position as the E vowel. The middle of your tongue is raised up near your hard palate. E. Yellow, Y. And last, we're going to talk about G as in gopher. This one is made by pulling the back of your tongue up to your soft palate. G, gopher. Now at this point, we're going to revisit some of those sounds we just discussed, and then use them to generate a few more consonants that we need from English. So let's start with S as in snake. This sound, as we discussed before, is made with the tip of your tongue near your alveolar ridge. S. Now, there is another sound in English, made in exactly the same location, which sounds like this. Z, which shows up in words like zebra. The difference between S and Z, this is something called voicing, which basically just asks whether your vocal cords are vibrating or not during the consonant. You can get a feel for this by putting your hand on your throat and saying S. Now you shouldn't feel very much beneath your hand. S is an unvoiced consonant, and so your vocal cords aren't vibrating at all when you pronounce it. If you do this exact same thing, but you say Z instead, you'll find that there is buzzing beneath your hand. Z is the voiced version of S. These 2 sounds, S and Z, they make for easy to follow examples of voicing because you can sustain them for a long period of time. S, Z. Now, we can use this concept of voicing to add another consonant to our repertoire. V as in vote. V is the voiced version of F. You use the exact same mouth position. Your bottom lip comes up to your upper teeth, F. But only this time, You're going to engage your vocal cords. V, vote. Now, voicing can get a bit more complex and interesting when we start talking about consonants like B or D, consonants that only last for an instant. So place your hand on your throat again, and this time say B. When you do this, a few things will happen in a very particular order. First, your lips are going to be closed. Then you'll start to feel buzzing in your throat, and air is going to build up behind your lips. M, m. Then your lips will pop open, B, and you'll hear your B, your B sound. The thing that makes B or B a voiced consonant is the fact that there's buzzing going on before your lips pop open. Now, the letter B, which makes a B sound in English, has an unvoiced partner, P. To make that sound, well, first there's going to be no buzz and your lips are going to be closed. It starts exactly the same as B. But then air starts building up behind your lips without any vibration in your vocal cords. Then your lips pop open for a P sound. P. Then air starts to rush out for 1/10 of a second, making a kind of exhalation sound. And then finally, once you've heard that sound, you'll start to feel buzzing in your throat as the vowel E starts. P, P. So using these same examples of B and P, let's talk about a new topic, aspiration. So let's say both of those letters, but this time, put your hand a couple of inches in front of your mouth when you do it. B, P. If you're making that P sound right, you're going to feel a big puff of air when you say it. P. And that puff of air is called aspiration. P is an aspirated consonant. And to be really precise, the aspiration happens in that 1/10 of a second between when your lips pop open and the vowel E starts. It's when you're making that sound. And unlike voicing, which only has two options, voiced or unvoiced, depending upon whether there's buzzing going on before your lips pop open or not, aspiration can come in different amounts, depending upon how long you wait between when your lips pop open and you start the vowel. If you want it to sound especially strange, you could take a really long time before you started the vowel. P. In that case, you'd be making a P sound with more aspiration than the one in English. And if you wanted to sound especially French or Italian, you could start the vowel immediately as soon as your lips pop open. B, B. In that case, you'd be saying a voiceless P without any aspiration at all. B. I'm going into this in a lot of depth because aspiration varies a lot between languages, and it affects three really important consonants in English. The one we just mentioned, P, which makes a P sound, as in paper. T, which makes a T sound, as in table. T is the voiceless, aspirated version of our D sound. And note here that the tongue position of T and D are the same. You're using the tip of your tongue against your alveolar ridge, and so it's going to sound more percussive than a lot of other languages. You're going to get T, 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 instead of D, T, D, like you might find in Italian or French or Spanish. And the last of our aspirated consonants in English is K, which makes a K sound, as in cape. It's a voiceless, aspirated version of G. We can kind of squeeze one more consonant out of this aspiration discussion, since there's one consonant in English that's basically only aspiration. If you exhale and you say then you've made the English consonant as in hang. There's nothing happening in your mouth, and all that's really happening is that you're letting air flow through your open vocal cords before you start whatever vowel comes next. Hang. While we're on the topic of consonants made at your vocal cords, we can also add in one strange little consonant known as the glottal stop. This consonant is basically what happens when you try to say a vowel with your vocal cords closed. As air comes through, it's going to pop them open and make a sound. We use it in English before words that start in vowels, in phrases like uh-oh and it is true. We don't go oh, we go uh-oh, with a sudden start to that sound and another glottal stop before that o sound. Uh-oh. For phrases like it is true, really strong glottal stops can make the difference between a very emphasized phrase, it is true, and a more matter-of-fact, unemphasized phrase, it is true. We only have a few consonants left to discuss. First off, let's cover a pair of dental consonants. These are consonants made using the tip of your tongue against your upper teeth. There is a voiceless one, as in think, and a voiced one, as in there. If you have trouble making this consonant, try starting with the consonant s, and then sticking your tongue a little further out to touch your teeth. There are even word pairs that contrast these two sounds, like sink and think. Sink, think. You can use the same consonant to go from z to th. Z, zen, then. We can make another pair of consonants by starting with s or z, and then going in the other direction with our tongues. Instead of going forward from s to th, we can go back from s to sh. Sh, as in shack, is made with the tip of your tongue just a bit behind your alveolar ridge. Sh, shack, which you could compare to s, sack, sack, shack. There's a voiced version of this, zh, as in beige, which you can find in the exact same way. Zzz, zzz, beige, zh. One little nuance I'll add for these two consonants is that you'll make these sounds a little more accurately if you also round your lips just a little bit. It's not sh, it's sh with rounded lips. These two consonants show up a lot in combination with a t or a d sound, giving you the unvoiced combination ch, as in chew, which is literally just a combination of t and then sh, t, sh, ch, chew. And then there's a voiced version. D with j makes j, as in gel. It's just a d and a j. D, j, j, gel. We only have 4 consonants left. We'll start with as in song or hung. This is a pretty common consonant across a lot of languages, so more likely than not, you have this one in your repertoire. It's basically just an N that you make with the back of your tongue instead of the front. So you close off your mouth using the back of your tongue as if you were about to say a g sound, and then you allow the air to come through your nose, and you get this sound. So here's sun with a normal front N, and sung with that back sound. Sun, sung. Next up, we have w as in water or wet. Most languages have an oo sound of some sort, and the w in water is basically just a very short, very intense oo. The important ingredients here are as follows. First, your lips. They need to be in a tight circle, like this, w. Second, your tongue. It should be pulled up and back, so that the back part of your tongue is close to where you'd say a g or a k sound, way back there, g, k, oo, w, water. Our final 2 consonants are the English L and R, which can be really problematic for many speakers. Let's start with that L, as in leak or lee. Many languages do have some kind of L sound. Usually the tongue position is something like this. It sounds like L. The tip of your tongue touches right behind your upper front teeth, and the rest of your tongue is further down, allowing air to escape on both sides of it. It sounds like L, lee, which you'll find in Italian, French, Dutch, Cantonese, Portuguese, German. Lots of common languages have this L sound. The L in English is a little bit different. The tip is in a similar place, but the big difference happens with the back of your tongue. In English, the back of your tongue is raised up. So instead of lee, you get lee. Lee, 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 lee. The English L has a sort of ol sound in it, coming from the back of your tongue. For most people who have trouble producing this consonant, the most helpful thing you can do will be ear training. The better you can hear this consonant and exactly how it differs from other consonants, the better you'll be able to produce it. With that said, let's move on to a closely related and equally challenging consonant, the English R, as in rat. A good sounding English R has 3 different ingredients relating to what you're doing with the back of your tongue, the front of your tongue, and your lips. Now, I said that R is a closely related consonant to L, and I said that because the back of the tongue is in nearly the exact same position for both consonants. The back of your tongue from R is potentially a little bit higher, but only barely. Now let's look at what you should be doing with the front of your tongue, which is naturally quite different from L. With L, the tip of your tongue touched your alveolar ridge. For the sound, you're going to bring the tip down a little bit, so it's hanging out right in the middle of your mouth. So if you do these two things, you keep the back of your tongue way up and the front of your tongue in the middle of your mouth, you're going to get an sound, which is most of the way there. But you can get a bit more accurate with your sound by also paying attention to your lips. Specifically, let's look at what happens when you try and round them, as if you were about to say ooh. So without rounding, there's and with rounding, That lip rounding is going to make that r sound just a little bit more clear and more native sounding. R. Once again, this is a consonant that you really need to learn how to hear well before you can really work on producing it well. So work on ear training first, ideally with minimal pairs like lake and rake, before you worry too much about what your tongue and your lips are doing. With that, we've covered all of the consonants of English. To quickly review, we began with 8 sounds you probably already have in your native language. There was b as in boy and m as in man. Both of these consonants were made with your lips pressed together. Then came f as in father, that's bottom lip to your upper teeth. Then we had 3 alveolar consonants with your tongue against your alveolar ridge. D as in dog, s as in snake, and n as in nail. Then there was y as in yellow, made with the middle of your tongue up near your hard palate, and g as in gopher, with the back of your tongue up against your soft palate. Then we talked about voicing and introduced you to z as in zebra, the voiced sibling of s, and then v as in vote, the voiced sibling of f. Then we got into a big discussion about aspiration, and we covered 3 consonants in English that tend to be more aspirated than most languages. P as in paper, t as in table, and k as in cape. Then we covered a couple of consonants that occur way down in the vocal cords, the simple exhalation, as in hang, and the glottal stop, as in uh-oh. Next we started from s and then went forward or back to create 4 more consonants. Bringing the tongue forward to the upper teeth, we had th as in think, and a voiced sibling, th as in there. And pulling the tongue back behind the alveolar ridge, we got to sh as in shack, and its voiced sibling, zh as in beige. There were also 2 combination sounds, adding a t or a d to get ch as in chew, and j as in gel. Then we did an n at the back of the throat. There was as in song, and a short version of a rounded oo vowel, w as in water. And finally, we covered the hardest consonants in English. L as in leak, made with a raised front and back of your tongue, leak, and then r as in rat, made with a raised back of your tongue and rounded lips. And that's it for English's consonants. Next up, the English vowels.